Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I have with us today Austin Prey, an engineering manager at Mixpanel. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me when AI stopped being an experiment at Mixpanel. Was there a specific decision or launch or incident that drove it?
Yeah, so I mean, we've had AI features in Mixpanel for quite a while, and we've been early adopters of things like GitHub Copilot, and we've had these tools available and kind of running around our stack. But July 2025, when we kind of like unleashed Cloud Code on the whole org, that was a huge inflection moment because definitely it was immediately changed the way people work, also how we think about agents in the product, like all that stuff. That was it. I think that was like the exact moment when that.
What drove that mandate? Did you have conviction or was it, this is an experiment, let's see what people do with it?
Yeah, so I mean, again, we're kind of early adopters of just like, AI in your IDE type, tab autocomplete type stuff. And like, my team's in charge of deploying these kind of tools, and our kind of opinion was like, yeah, they're pretty useful. Like, sure, you can make some good use out of this stuff. But once the kind of like headless CLI agents like Cloud Code and stuff like that started coming on the scene, that's kind of like when my ears perked up, and I was like, oh, whoa, this is different. Like this, the fact that you could, I guess, like feed a task to these things and headless, like without you sitting there babysitting it, it could go do things. That was kind of like a super interesting thing for both, like, I mean, writing code, building Mixpanel, but also just for like, hey, like people want to do analysis in Mixpanel like this too. So
Did you have success metrics that you were working towards or an idea of what it would look like if it was wildly successful?
I think like we started pretty modest as far as like we were targeting chores, like like hey, like if you use these tools well, yeah, maybe like our like little small bugs and stuff like that will be closed quicker. Tickets will be closed quicker, stuff like that. But it's definitely it's definitely kind of grown from there. I feel like that's July 2025 that was kind of our idea, and now it's grown to yeah. I mean the scope of these tools and kind of like the extent to which our engineers are using them has definitely kind of exploded. So.
Do you feel like you had a good way to measure whether something was a chore or a non-chore before you started, or was it much more qualitative?
And definitely, the other thing we were keeping track of for sure was cost, and it was really funny. Like when deploying these tools, I was like, we need to get these tools out now. Like if we're so behind, like holy crap. And then like of course in my head I was like, oh my, it's gonna be we need to like track costs and stuff like that. I think Honeycomb has a dashboard, like a template for this built in, and I wired it up in 2 seconds and just like boom, showed it to the exec and like good enough, sweet. And we just went for it. And I think that's still kind of like our like one of our sources of truth for just like how much we're spending on agents in the dev process and stuff.
Awesome. I'm glad we were helpful. As the population of your stakeholders increases or diversifies, how have you and your team thought about where to focus, whom to prioritize?
The guardrails bit is has been where most of our time has been spent because uh, you know like yeah, I mean going back to 2025, like you can imagine like having some kind of like are you sure y/n in a CLI, like that used to kind of be good enough, like maybe a trained engineer would be like, oh yeah, maybe I'll ask someone about this, but you turn the agents loose or whatever, and they might gladly smack that Y button or whatever. So I mean, just continuing to march towards zero trust and just like really locking things down and kind of stuff like that. Not just the production stuff, but also even the dev stuff too. Like it's really changed our thinking about implementing guardrails and stuff like that.
Do you have any specific examples of someone that you were the most tickled is now a software engineer through these tools?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my boy AK over in sales engineering, he's always, been building tools and stuff like that. But I feel like this stuff is just like, I mean, the scope of these tools he's building is crazy. And actually, like, the extent to which he's actually able to influence our product process, just because he's talking to customers, building
Yeah.
tools, showing us POCs, and then like basically saying like, hey, build this, build this in the product right now. That's been really interesting for sure.
When you think about your team or different levels of sensitivity around the org, you use the term tier zero.
Mm-hmm.
Um, was that language that you all had before? How are you thinking about where it is appropriate to then get AI help to build something out versus AI can touch this versus AI can't touch this?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we definitely have agents writing code that goes into production at, from like our UI all the way to our like highly stateful storage systems and stuff like that. And you'll see these. I mean, the usage is kind of stratified. You'll see like maybe those storage folks will use Claude more to like write throwaway analysis scripts, things that would maybe take them like a week to figure out. Now they can figure out in a day. You have UI stuff that's just fully you can sell. People are just kind of sending it, and going for it. So it's definitely a mix there.
Are there things that have had to adjust around processes like on call, or making measuring customer impact of changes?
Yeah, like there's been a lot of discussion. Like for instance, I mean, one of the like maybe like a naysayer or someone who's kind of like scared of agentic coding and stuff like that. They might the very first thing that's brought front and center is like, this is scary. People are going to break things. We're not going to be able to review this code properly. Like there's a whole like laundry list of that stuff, and like kind of like where my team stepped in is like, hello, it shouldn't be possible to break this stuff anyway. Like whether if it's an agent or whatever, like
Yeah.
if you don't have the proper observability or like guardrails, pre-deploy, post-deploy, all that stuff, then like, you know, like because this could be broken by an agent.
Yeah.
We need to like patch a vulnerability very quickly. Like, we need to confront this problem no matter what. So like, let's just like solve that as a team. So that's kind of like, when people get scared or they need, they're having trouble scaling. That's kind of the discussion where the discussion goes.
Are there ways that you've leveraged automation or agents to help reinforce the guardrails themselves?
Yeah. I mean, so we're, a lot of our implementation so far has been, kind of like the interactive, you're using Cloud Code as a buddy to implement a change. Like we're like now we've kind of got that solved, or I don't know. Like I mean, we have the adoption. Like that's no longer an issue. We are focusing on things like adding agents to people's team. Like when you get paged, it also pages the agent and spikes up a PR or stuff like that. So that's definitely like kind of like one direction we're going there.
I mean, one of the things that we're thinking a lot about is as the rate of change increases, how do we help make sure on call is not painful? Is it adding agents? Is it more automated checks or process reinforcement around shipping code, making sure that it has the right instrumentation put in, which you would think would not be a problem for Honeycomb. And also our people are still people. And the temptation to move fast is there. So that's kind of where I was curious if you had a silver
Yeah,
bullet or piece of advice for us.
it is interesting because like you know, yeah, like so there would be like we would get a page, like maybe a warn level page, and it's one of those things that might fly under the radar. Like if someone just kind of let it slip, I would be like, yeah, whatever. It would take a whole day or two to instrument this properly or whatever. But now like it's like do it, like we even for CI jobs, we've implemented tracing in some of our like longer running jobs and stuff like that. And stuff like that. Again, it was like people we've talked about it. We're like, we really should do this, but now that we have these tools, it's like, just do it. And
Yeah.
it's pretty good at doing that stuff, of course, because like, it's like OTel, all that kind of stuff is just built in. I guess it's all in the weights or or whatever. So that's been really, really, really interesting is like, yeah, just being able to get that data that we didn't have before and just not be left wondering. We can just very quickly just get the direct answer and just fix it
I love that.
fundamentally. So
It makes it easier when something is better than nothing.
yeah.
What has changed about how individual team works day to day, or how your team works with your client team day to day?
Yeah. So I guess one of the positive things is like, I mean, we already had like a pretty like, I don't know, like if you have the skills, if you have the interest, like we don't really like gatekeep parts of the code base or anything like that, but they were kind of necessarily guarded just because people didn't really understand how to work on them. Like for instance, some of the dev infra stuff, like people didn't touch our dev boxes or whatever, just because it's like, I don't really know what's going on here. But now people can just self-serve and they see a problem or something slow and they can just fix it.
Yeah.
And it's been both a positive thing because like for sure, like my customers are just fixing their own bugs and I just review them. Like that's amazing, right? It's also been a little bit of like, whoa, like don't touch that, like there's this whole thing going on, please talk to me first type thing. So that there's been a little bit of growing up there, right? Where it's like, uh, like for instance, just like code owners and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like I think it used to be really like common sense, but now it's like everything's free game except this stuff.
Yeah.
Please, you must, get a reviewer here or something.
Well, it seems like such a bigger problem right now with open source,
Hmm.
where anyone can put up a PR with the help of
Yeah,
agents, and it puts a lot more of the burden on the maintainers.
right.
Open source is a little bit more, tends to be a little bit more defined than inside companies, but
Yeah,
the pressure definitely shifts around. Have there been things that you would not never have imagined yourself being okay with maintaining?
totally. Yeah, like I mean, I can think of a couple examples. Like one of them is just like forking stuff. Like I know like we deploy a lot of open source, tools and stuff like things like the GitHub Action runners and stuff like that. And like forking these things would have been just like out of the question. It's like we're using the open source tools to save time. Like we don't want to have to maintain this stuff. But now that like these agent tools are around, it's like sure, like whatever. Like I don't, like we've been able to like if we see a problem, like fix it ourselves almost immediately. Try to upstream, but like if they don't want to upstream it, it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter that much. Like that's kind of one example of things that were just like the time involved and just like the effort like wasn't worth it, but now it's like overwhelmingly worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just also just uh, I feel like I mean building like nice UIs and just like a fully like I think we're able to skip to the V2 like very quickly like with internal
I like
tooling.
that language.
Yeah, because like before it would just be like, yeah, you can do this. Like there's a CLI over here, whatever. But now we just like, hey, here's a dashboard, and you can just click buttons and it works. Like that's been because yeah, a lot of the time the ROI on that stuff just wouldn't work out at all. But now it's like, it's the same effort, so might as well do it.
This is also not for inclusion in the thing, but we are finally releasing dark mode.
Mm,
One of those things that has always just like fallen below the line of like
yeah,
it is not worth spending time going through being meticulous, but because now we have agents that can do the visual testing, that can do
totally.
all the permutations, that can do a lot of the just like the translation
Hmm.
to make sure that it is consistent and something not a human going and hand replacing string values of variables everywhere. Like
Well, and like you think about like, I mean, because I mean, Mixpanel's had dark mode and stuff like that. And like we had to solve that problem before
yeah,
AI, and it was like having like building a linting job for that
yep,
because it's not a like well it can be a programmatic thing, but it's like think of the system you'd have to build for that versus like, hey, can you make sure that when we add a color that there's like a dark mode version and agents like sure I'll keep that in check.
what does great look like from here? If you're going to describe your ideal state now that you've got the penetration and the adoption, what does that look like for your team?
I mean, the next step is like so again we've got people interactively using these tools, kind of like collaborating, to automate their individual work tasks or whatever. I definitely want these agents to start, you know, I guess automatically or proactively doing work for people. Again, like when people are
Yeah.
paged, when a bug comes in, stuff like that. Spike up a fix. Just I want to when I return to my laptop for a page, like I've already got kind of an attempt at a root cause, like that type of thing. And that's where it's pretty easy to like for interactive sessions and stuff like that. I mean, you have people that have eyes on it, they can give feedback and stuff like that. But then when you have all these agents, like hundreds of GitHub actions running Cloud Code and stuff like that, being able to actually like go through and figure out what they're actually doing and like where they're getting caught up and stuff like that that's definitely like something that we don't have a handle on right now, and think you guys are working on. So like that actually, I'm like, thank you,
I'm pretty excited to show you how Honeycomb can help you make sense of what your agents are doing for
because
sure.
like the only idea I have right now is just another agent. Hey, army haiku guys, just go look at the logs and go figure out what your other Claude buddies are doing. It's obviously like
Yeah.
expensive and slow, but yeah.
You mentioned coming back from a page and having something to review or having a first attempt at an RCA. Where do you? It implies to me that you have a line drawn
Mhm.
between where you want humans involved and where you want agentic help.
Mhm.
How do you define that line today? And do you anticipate that line moving ever?
Yeah, I mean, so, maybe it's my lack of creativity, but like there's so many triggers that happen like in the real world, like something's broken, a bug is filed, like a message appears in a Slack channel. Like those are things that like someone needs to respond to, like it's kind of like an always on thing. So that's kind of where my mind goes as far as like, let's just stick the agents at that and give people back some time or let people multitask better and stuff like that. But yeah, like I can definitely see, and I know like Zoom just released their MCP in Claude recently, and that's kind of got my brain going because it's like okay, yeah, I'm thinking about this thing of like, yeah, pages, work items in linear, like all that stuff. Now I'm like, shoot, like if it's a part of my meetings and like we can basically kick off some stuff based on just like, yapping in a Zoom meeting, like that seems kind of interesting. So basically, like I see, yeah, the agents are going to become more capable. I'm like
Yeah.
betting on that, right? But also just like literally all these tools that we run our work in are also getting connected to these agents, and like, yeah, I'm kind of seeing the possibilities kind of spread there. So yeah, it's definitely going to grow for sure.
Is there anything else the world should know about what Mixpanel engineering is up to?
Yeah, we're hiring big time. So if you want to come work on stuff like this, yeah, join Mixpanel, mixpanel.com/careers.
Awesome. Thanks so much.